Visit our sponsor, thesafeandvaultstore.com, right now. Click the link below or give them a call at 1-800-207-2259. That's 1-800-207-2259. That's thesafeandvaultstore.com. Uncle Sam Sale, tax season savings on select handgun and rifle safes. No tax, plus 10% off, plus free shipping all month long at thesafeandvaultstore.com. Enter promo code TAXREFUND. That's coupon code TAXREFUND. Offer expires April 30th, 2016.
I just heard a loud boom. You did? Was it a plane? That's what I was thinking. It was a terrorist attack.
Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Greene and you're watching AMTV, Alternative Media Television. Today's video, you'll learn the truth about Obama's supposed leak of the 28 pages of the 9/11 declassified information, the documents that he's going to release. Ooh, he's going to give us the truth, right? Obama's going to give us the truth about 9/11. How is that not the most laughable thing I've ever heard about in my entire life? Now, first off, you can't trust anything if and when it's leaked in 60 days. This has been reported by Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, the mainstream media. Again, none of this can be trusted. This is probably going to be the equivalent and the very definition of a limited hangout, where they give us only the information that they want to give us, to probably more than likely throw Saudi Arabia under the bus. Now, if you've done any studying at all, if you were alive during the September 11, 2001 attacks, you'll know that it was an inside job, right? Or at the very least, a conspiracy. You remember there wasn't even a fighter jet in the sky? You know, I remember when I went to school in Washington, D.C., our professors used to brag about how they could scramble jets at sonic boom. Just like that, but not a single jet in the sky on that fateful day.
Anyway, lots to get to, but before we do, we've got another check of the weather from Mr. Roker. Al, it is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning here, although it's not fall yet, so it's still a perfect summer morning. And good advice, hug a nurse today. Where are you from?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Youngstown, what are you doing
St.
here?
Elizabeth.
Just hanging out?
Just on vacation.
With the commercial airliners slamming into both buildings, and then of course Building 7, which didn't even have a plane run into it, just demolished in a perfect demolition. Because that's exactly what it was, an engineered demolition, especially with Building 7. I mean, you don't have to be a scientist or building expert or engineer to understand that. Even though there's engineers, scientists that have investigated and said, yeah, it's a controlled demolition. I mean, a building just doesn't fall. It wasn't reverberations from the other building. It just doesn't happen. I mean, it looked like one of those buildings in Vegas when they wired up for a reason, because that's exactly what happened. And in fact, I'm not even convinced there were people on the commercial planes. I'm not convinced that the quote-unquote terrorists weren't CIA patsies, which is more than likely who they were. Why? Well, that's a dumb question. It basically laid the foundation for an entire multi-decade invasion in the Middle East, a very convenient narrative that the United States of America needed filled.
This is fascinating news. It will certainly cause more issues in the relationship between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, because it appears that the 28 pages primarily focus on the support from Saudi ruling circles for some of the alleged 19 hijackers who were, in fact, falsely blamed for the crimes of September 11th, 2001. And the real issue here, I think, is whether this will end up prying open the entire case of 9/11, or whether it will become a sort of limited hangout. It could be simply used to channel popular anger against the government of Saudi Arabia, perhaps but not really change anything. And that would be a tragedy, because we need to reopen the entire 9/11 case here. The actual relationship between the Saudis and 9/11 is certainly not one of having the Saudi ruling family completely controlling the 9/11 attacks and in charge of the plot. That's ridiculous. Saudi Arabia is a U.S. puppet state. We know that the 15 hijackers who were Saudis, or the alleged hijackers, because they were not on those planes, not one of the 19 hijackers or any Arabs were on any of the 4 planes, according to the passenger list and according to all of the evidence that would be there if they'd been on the planes has not been produced. These 15 Saudi patsies who were set up to take the blame for 9/11 were, in fact, CIA agents.
In addition to that, toppling governments that had nothing to do, according to the official report and narrative, countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and all that destabilization over there so we could go steal their shit, and steal oil. In addition to that, it laid the very foundation for the Patriot Act, put it up on a silver platter for you, which was already written and ready to go before September 11, 2001 even happened. So isn't that convenient? It fills the gap and a void, a need of a multi-decade war in the Middle East, and in addition to that, helps to usher in the surveillance state as it is today. Just convenience, right? And Building 7 didn't have a plane run into it. And the Pentagon was actually also hit, but they won't release any of the footage because, why would the American people need to see any of that footage? It's a matter of national security, but not anymore. They're going to declassify the 28 pages, and we're expected to believe that. Now, the only reason they're doing this, again, is because it's a limited hangout, in my opinion. They want to throw Saudi Arabia under the bus because there's this war narrative building right now. Of course, we're engaged in war, right? Of course, we are at war with the rising East, Russia, China. We're seeing this economically as well, with the yuan soon to be tied to the gold standard. Nobody's talking about that. Every mainstream media outlet should be talking about that, but they're not. You have to dig in the underside of the internet to find any of this information, to pull it up from Reuters and some of these quote-unquote legitimate sources. So don't trust a darn thing that comes from this report. Obama can't be trusted. Your government can't be trusted. Not just Obama, but George W. Bush couldn't be trusted. Donald Rumsfeld couldn't be trusted. Donald Rumsfeld didn't even know what Building 7 was when he was asked this by Luke, courtesy of We Are Change, not too long ago.
I was wondering, have you heard of Building 7? Because there was like a radio show where you said that you never heard of Building 7.
No, I haven't. What's Building 7?
He just played dumb, like, oh, I don't even know what Building 7 is. Are you freaking kidding me? They've probably said Building 7 a million plus times while he was in Washington, D.C. He's a freaking lying piece of you-know-what psychopath. Again, it fills a war agenda and a war narrative. And now the United States is at odds with its, used to be puppet state, and ally Saudi Arabia. All this plays into the oil trade war, this engineered collapse in oil prices. Notice how oil is just down in the doldrums now. What is it, like $40 a barrel, depending on whether or not you look at Brent or WTI? It's just hanging out in the trough. Plays into negative interest rates, ZERP, what I believe to be soon in this country, negative interest rates, what we're seeing across the pond, places like Europe, Japan. It all plays into this bubble that they're building. I got a text message from a friend this morning who said, wow, this isn't going to end well, Chris. Article on 0% interest rates, negative rates, which is where we've been since 2008, 2009. Yeah, you're right. It's creating a bubble. Donald Trump knows this. I know this. Pundits know this. Even Ted Cruz was talking about this. And his wife works for the criminal bank that is Goldman Sachs. Even Ted Cruz is like, yeah, it's a bubble. It's all going to collapse around us. So you can't trust a darn thing coming from this report. Okay, all this plays into economics. Just like the engineered event that made up September 11, 2001 played right into the hands to the largest transfer of wealth in the history of man. And you don't think that was engineered? To transfer all the money from the baby boomers to go straight to the government, straight to the bankers, and the amounts of trillions and trillions of dollars? Why do you think there's so much anger on the street? Why do you think there's so much angst? It was engineered. It was an inside job. And the information leaked by Obama, if he decides to do so in the next 60 days, can absolutely 100% not be trusted. You know, you read conflicting propaganda. I was reading a report from Press TV, which I believe is the mainstream media equivalent in Iran, talking about this as a Zionist plot. That's what 9/11 was, that the Zionists were in on it. Israel was in on it. And basically this was used to basically feed into that narrative so Israel could go out and take out all the countries around them. Possible. But you have to understand the propaganda coming from all the different outlets, whether or not it's CNN, US propaganda, or Fox News, or MSNBC, or it's RT, Russian state propaganda coming from Russia Today, or it's Press TV coming from Iran. This is a war of words, a war of worlds. The rising East and the collapsing West. Yeah, it's not going to end well. Just like that text, it's not going to end well. Save some money for a rainy day. Yes, we are in bubbles. Yes, this all ties in together. Yes, 9/11 was an inside job. And at the very least, if you don't believe that, it's a giant freaking conspiracy. Again, not a single fighter jet in the sky. Either the U.S. government is absolutely 100% and entirely incompetent, and there is no security, or they were in on it. You pick. Both aren't good outcomes. It's either incompetence or a freaking inside job. And at the very least, a giant conspiracy. Again, Building 7 collapsed in a perfect demolition without a single plane running into it. And we're expected to believe that. Donald Rumsfeld doesn't even know what Building 7 is. Bullshit. A lying, freaking, psychopathic scumbag. Building bubbles, releasing these quote-unquote declassified documents in the form of a limited hangout, psychological warfare, brainwashing of the American public to lead and fill the gap and void and narrative of war. The same reason 9/11 was engineered in the first place, because again, it fed into that war narrative for multi-decades to invade countries that had nothing to do, according to the official narrative, with September 11, 2001 in the first place.
Elliot, have you, of course, because of the incident that occurred in the early 1990s, have you seen any evidence, Elliot, of people being taken out of the building? You say that emergency vehicles are there, understandably so, but of course the major concern is human loss. I mean, do you know if there were many people in the building?
Oh, another one just hit. Something else just hit. A very large plane just flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision.
A CIA inside hit job. People don't want to wake up to the truth. They don't want to believe that, because that's scary. To think that the federal government would actually murder its own citizens. It's been done before, folks. I hate to break it to you. It happens all the time. American citizens are sacrificed all the time. U.S. soldiers sacrificed all the time. Ever hear of SEAL Team 6?
Well, Navy SEAL Team 6 became a household name after members of that elite unit took out Osama bin Laden in May of 2011. But the same unit suffered tragedy just 3 months later when a helicopter carrying 30 American troops, most of them members of SEAL Team 6, was blasted out of the sky by Taliban forces in Afghanistan. Among the Americans killed, Sergeant Patrick Hamburger of the Nebraska National Guard and Navy SEALs Michael Strange and Aaron Vaughn. Their families say now their deaths did not have to happen. In an emotional news conference at the National Press Club in Washington yesterday, they blamed the Obama administration for what they call serious missteps leading to their sons' deaths. And they are pushing for a congressional investigation.
We go to Dover to see the bodies, and we're all in the hangar down there, and President Obama comes up to me and he says, "Mr. Strange," he grabs me by the shoulders, "Michael changed the way America lives." I grabbed Mr. President by the shoulders and I said, "I don't need to know about my son, I need to know what happened."
Happens all the freaking time. A sinister agenda in Washington, D.C. that makes up this New World Order integration by the likes of financiers in the name of the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the George Soroses of the world, all a part of the plan. Destabilization, the breaking down of borders, the elimination of sovereign governments. This is exactly what they want. While they mind F you into infinity with the release of, and this is the perfect example of these quote-unquote 28 pages of declassified documents. It's very sad to the victims. Don't you think that's probably the tragedy? Isn't that disgusting? They're going to release fake report, a fake document, and give that to the victims of those that had loved ones killed by this tragedy, this inside hit job, this giant freaking conspiracy at the very least. Or if you don't believe any of that, your government's just absolutely retarded and incompetent. And there is no security here in the United States. They just had their pants down on 9/11, didn't scramble a single jet, not a single general on the phone. Means you're not protected then. It means that this country is absolutely inept. And you should be fearing for your life on a daily basis, honestly. Code red, code red, code red. That's the terror alert, the psychological warfare. You know, that's the darn truth here. People need to wake up to the reality. They need to understand the bullshit, the propaganda. They need to understand how intelligence agencies work. They need to understand, if you don't already, you can't trust your own government. Our founding fathers knew this, is why they set it up in the first place. The way that they did with the branches of government and balances of power. Something that we don't have now. Rigged elections. Okay, this is all coming into the mainstream now. Everybody's talking about it. This isn't a system. This isn't what America is supposed to be. We've been hijacked. There's a Manchurian candidate in Washington, D.C. today. We now live in a giant freaking surveillance state that makes up the USSA. Well, we point fingers at other tyrannical governments. I mean, isn't that ridiculous? We point fingers at China and these other quote-unquote police, tyrannical, dictatorial type states, and Kim Jong-un in North Korea. They're doing the same shit here in the United States of America. People need to wake up to the reality. You need to wade through the bullshit, see through the machine. You can if you really look. If you really listen inside to that little voice in you. You've got gut instincts. You know. And if you really listen, you know 9/11 was an inside job. I'm Christopher Greene. Get this video out everywhere, make it viral, hard hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor. Peace.